Well, welcome to the 700 Club. Despite what you may have heard on some TV last night, the greatest threat to America is not Russia, it is China. China, the great serpent, if you will, is coming alive. And why is China developing weapons to target American aircraft carriers? And what other threats does China pose to the U.S. and the world? It's all part of an ancient belief that China has the right to rule the world. And since taking office, China's president has taken action to fortify his military, strengthen his economy, and increase its political power. George Thomas brings us an alarming look at the Chinese new empire.
Napoleon Bonaparte, the French military leader, said more than 2 centuries ago that China is a sleeping lion. Let her sleep, for when she wakes, she will shake the world. China's President Xi Jinping has emphatically declared that the lion has awakened.
Reaching back to the language of his imperial ancestors, Xi announced during his first speech as president in 2012 that his nation would embark on the Great Rejuvenation Project,
which, to put it into sort of Trumpian terms, means to make China great again.
Tom Miller documents China's rise in the book China's Asian Dream, Empire Building Along the New Silk Road. Miller says since taking the reins, President Xi has been on a trajectory of preparing China to be the world's dominant power.
Under Xi Jinping, China has been very, very deliberately trying to realize its kind of ambition to become the global superpower.
And Xi wants to achieve that goal within the next 3 decades.
It talks about its centenary goal. So the People's Republic of China was founded in 1949, and by 2049, China wants to be the global superpower.
Chinese scholars say it's also part of the 67-year-old's deep belief that his country has a divine right to rule the world.
The mandate of heaven is from China's imperial past, where Chinese emperors believed that they not only had the right, but they were compelled by heaven to rule the world. And there's this notion of tianxia, or all under heaven.
One way is by military force. As commander-in-chief of the world's largest fighting force, Xi has remade China's People's Liberation Army, or PLA, into a military rapidly closing the gap on U.S. firepower.
I think we've just been incredibly impressed and surprised, frankly, by how fast the Chinese military has modernized.
Zach Cooper is a China scholar at the American Enterprise Institute and lecturer at Princeton University.
If you look at what they've done in the last 3 decades, we've seen about double-digit growth in the defense expenditures for most of that time.
The results could mean a significant threat to the United States, her allies, and the Asia-Pacific's balance of power.
It is likely that China will seek to build a military that is equal to, or in some cases superior to, the U.S. military or the military of any other great power that China perceives as a potential threat.
The Pentagon revealing for the first time that China now has the world's largest navy and plans to double its nuclear warhead arsenal in this decade, which includes ballistic missiles that can reach the United States.
This has been a tremendous change from a Chinese military which back in the 1990s was not even really considered a peer in any way with that of the United States.
Gordon Chang warns that China is also adapting its military capabilities to kill Americans.
Well, it is a great military threat to the USA because China is developing weapons that are specifically targeting American aircraft carriers and others.
China warning the United States against selling advanced weapons system to Taiwan, an island territory that Beijing claims sovereignty over and has vowed to take back by force if necessary.
This seriously interferes in China's internal affairs and seriously damages China's sovereignty and security interests. China firmly opposes this.
The South China Morning Post reporting that Beijing is beefing up its military capabilities for possible invasion of Taiwan. And while China continues to secure its borders and coastal waters, Xi is also projecting power far from home. The Pentagon reports citing Chinese plans to open U.S.-style military bases from Asia to Africa to South America.
We're really seeing an expansion of China's military footprint in a way that certainly wouldn't have been expected maybe 10 years ago. And I think we're just going to see that accelerate. As China grows stronger, it's going to have more reason to go out into the world and try and protect its trade routes. And that means more of a Chinese military presence, not just in East Asia, but actually beyond as well.
China is also relying on its economy and technological prowess. In 2013, President Xi launched China's Belt and Road Initiative, sometimes referred to as the New Silk Road. Stretching from East Asia to Europe to Africa, China is busy building roads, railways, airports, dams, power grids, ports, bridges, and the list goes on, all in an attempt to gain economic, political, and diplomatic partnerships around the world.
It's expanded from about 65 countries originally, all more or less neighbors of China's, to encompass most of the developing world. So there are now more than 140 countries around the world which are officially a part of this initiative.
Then, 2 years later, in 2015, the government in Beijing launched Made in China 2025 with the aim of being a technological superpower. It launched initiatives in high-tech industries such as robotics, artificial intelligence, and next-generation technology and telecommunications.
China is doing its best not only to buy up tech from other countries, and we've seen the US pushing back against that very hard in recent years, but also to kind of create that tech itself.
Miller says unlike Genghis Khan and his Mongol Empire, Xi isn't trying to build an empire in the classic sense. Instead, he argues that China under Xi wants to become an economic, military, and technological juggernaut that will surpass the United States and dominate the world for the foreseeable future.
Do I think that China, like the Mongols, is going to sort of send hordes of people across Eurasia to kind of invade other countries? No, I don't. So it's not going to be an empire in that sense. When I use the word empire, I'm talking more in terms of an economic and diplomatic empire, in terms of global spheres of influence.
China's neighbors watch her rise with mixed feelings. In America, levels of anxiety about China are at historic highs. The Trump administration has put Xi's government on notice for its handling of the coronavirus pandemic, its poor human rights record, trade imbalance, and a host of other thorny issues. Still, as the author of a recent Politico article wrote, America and the world doesn't get to veto China's rise, only to reckon with it. The question is, what will that reckoning look like in the years to come as China continues to get stronger? George Thomas, CBN News.
Thanks, George. This has frankly astounded me. When I was over there, everything was so crude. The Chinese were riding bicycles. They didn't have many cars, or they didn't have good roads. They didn't have any of the things that we think of as modern. I'm astounded that they did it. Of course, they've stolen all of our technology. And, when Joe Biden was asked who the greatest threat is, he didn't even mention China. Why not? Because the word is that his son has gotten a huge deal with China. And so he didn't mention it. He said Russia. But Russia can't hold a candle to China. In days gone by, I saw the rise of Christianity. And so many of the Chinese were coming to the Lord. And I thought China is going to be the largest Christian nation on the face of the earth. Well, under Xi, there's been a repression against Christianity. Churches are being torn down. The rebuilding of new churches is prohibited. I mean, it's just appalling what is being done. But it's being done so quickly. And I must say, again, for President Trump, he recognizes the danger, but it's almost too late. And we ask ourselves, what would we do if suddenly we are confronted with China? I mean, if somebody says, all right, are we going to defend Taiwan? Or we're supposed to do that. But what if our aircraft carriers are being blown up? And what about those islands in the South China Sea that are being built? And they're saying, well, this is Chinese territory. And so these other nations are being blocked out. So a huge amount of trade goes forth in the South China Sea. I mean, it's mind-boggling when you think about it. And to have one presidential candidate who refuses to even acknowledge that China is a threat. Why? Why? How have they gotten to him? And are they bribing people? Or are they paying people? Well, of course they are. They have disinformation, and they say, the FBI said about every few days or few weeks or few months, there's another China plot being unearthed here in America. They're doing everything they can to compromise our schools, our election, everything we're doing. But right now, we have prayed and prayed because God was bringing so many of those wonderful Chinese people to faith in Jesus. But Xi is doing everything he can to persecute Christians, and of course he's persecuting the Uyghurs. He's got concentration camps to put those Muslim Uyghurs in concentration camps to, quote, re-educate them. I mean, it's horrible when we think what we're confronting. And to be the President of the United States under a time like this is daunting, to say the least.